Hello everyone, and this is BioPhoenix here, and today we're going to be taking a look at a Super Nintendo game, and that happens to be Song of the Angel. At least that's what the series is called. So there's 3 games within the series, and only one of them got fan translated, and that happens to be the Super Nintendo game, which is the 3rd entry. But here's what you gotta know, is that the first 2 games are on the PC Engine CD, and they are actually connected to each other, where this one on the other hand is not actually considered as part 3. It's more like a side story that happens to be in the same universe and does have some references to the other games. So you don't need to play the first 2 games in order to understand this one, considering that this is a more self-contained story. And as for the full name of the game, this one happens to be Tenshi no Uta Shiroki Tsubasa no Inori. And apparently if you translate it with Google Translate, it says Song of the Sun, the Season of the Season. Yeah, I have a feeling that's not correct, but whatever. But the fan translation just calls the game Song of the Angels, so that's what I'm just gonna call it, just because it's easier to say. But oh yeah, as for the developer, this game was developed and published by Telenet and was released in 1994 and only in Japan. So now, let's get right to the story. So it starts with the main character named Rayard, although I'll just call him Ray because that's what most people call him in the game. So he lives in a small town with his father, who happens to be a skilled blacksmith. So one day, Ray's father ends up telling him that he has to deliver some axes to some woodcutters. And after coming back from delivering the axes, he ends up meeting a female character, and her name happens to be Kalena, and she is a traveling performer who does some singing for the circus. So as they were talking about understanding animals, they really seem to hit it off hard, and they both really love each other. Yes, by the way, this is a very sappy love story. So the circus ends up traveling to his town, which is why she's around town, and Ray wants to bring over his friends to go see it. And after that whole event, he ends up introducing Kalena to his friends. And more specifically, his friend Elf is the one that's really telling him, yo dude, you need to get laid with this bitch. But before he can tell her his true feelings, what ends up happening is that she ends up traveling to another town. And he's all really depressed and shit because of the fact that he didn't get a chance to tell her his true feelings, and also that he thinks that he'll never see her ever again. And a few days later, it turns out that in the next town that she happens to be traveling to, the Duke, who is named Lord Lannar, who is by the way a giant prick, ends up forcing her to get married to him, and she doesn't like this at all. And of course our main character Ray stops being depressed and also stops listening to My Chemical Romance, gets some huge amount of motivation to go rescue her. That pretty much sums up the basics of what you need to know about the story, but of course I will say that you actually do rescue her pretty early on, and then throughout most of the game you're pretty much just on the run away from Lord Lannar's men, and also getting stuck in other sticky situations. So yeah, this game's story is very simple, easy to understand, no complicated crap shit, and is also very lighthearted and love-sappy. So yeah, it's one of those RPGs where the main focus is all about romance. At least when it comes to writing. Of course there's many other games that I've played before that also have a lot of romance focuses and are all about dating characters and knowing more about them and all that stuff. But this one is just a more straightforward fantasy love. So now, let's talk about the game's gameplay. So it's a typical top-down turn-based RPG, which is very common. And you do the usual stuff, traveling to different towns, stock up on items, possibly buy new weapons and armor, advance the plot of the story, go to the open world, fight random encountered enemies, and all that good stuff. Yeah, not good stuff, good shuff. Because, there totally is a huge difference between good stuff and good shuff, but anyways. So as for the battle system, well, it's typical turn-based, where you have attack, magic, defend, items, run. So if you played another turn-based RPG before, then this won't be confusing to you whatsoever. But there is one sorta unique feature that this game has, is that after running into a random battle, you can actually choose to talk to the monster. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It depends on the monster, because sometimes you have to acquire new languages in order to understand with them. But if it is successful though, then you can talk to them, avoid the battle altogether, get some EXP, get more money, or sometimes you can even buy items from them. So this feature is pretty much exactly like the stuff you do in most of the Shin Megami Tensei games. But only that trying to talk to some of the demons are not riddles and such. And whenever you level up in the game, not only do you obviously gain up your stats, but you also do regain your health back up, which is always nice, but depending on the character that levels up, you can acquire new magic spells. And yeah, you do get a lot of random guest characters that will join in the party for a short time, and then will leave, and sometimes will come back. And one last thing I will mention about the battle system in this game is that I was actually really surprised and impressed that the battle system in this game is really fast and snappy. Like, whenever there's, like, dialogue going on saying so-and-so damage has been dealt to so-and-so, like, you can skip right through it in, like, a second. So all the battles in this game, like, depending how strong you are, you can actually get through them, like, really quickly, and they don't feel tedious whatsoever. Because as much as I do love a lot of old-school RPGs, unfortunately, there is quite a lot of them where you have to, like, painstakingly go through all, like, the menus slowly, you know, by having to read so-and-so has dealt 69 damage to Penis Face. So yeah, the battle system is not only simple and easy to understand, but it's also very quick too. Like, you really don't even need a turbo mode whatsoever. And one feature that I do like that this game has is that it has a chat feature where pretty much you get to talk to the party about the recent events that happen and also get help on where you're supposed to go. So let's just say you played like quite a lot of the game and you want to like take a break from it for a while, and whenever you feel like playing it again, it's easy to get back into it for that you won't forget what you're supposed to do. I always love stuff like this because, knowing me, I always play a lot of different games at a time, and sometimes I have to take a break from like really long RPGs, and sometimes it can be a little stressful trying to remember what the hell I was doing. So now, let's go on and talk about the other things, like the graphics. And I'd say that the graphics in this game are pretty decent. Not amazing looking and nothing that's like cutting edge, but it at least is serviceable. But I'd say that the best part of the graphics though would have to be the fact that everything is just bright and colorful, and also I like the character portraits in the game. Also, the monster sprites and the backgrounds on the battle screens are really nice looking too. But I do find that the character sprites are a little bit bland, and also the menu design is also not the most exciting looking ever. But at least I can say that I would rather look at a plain green background than like a plain gray or a plain poopy brown color. But yeah, other than that, I do think that the graphics in this game are decent, but definitely not the nicest looking ever. But now, as for the game's music, well, I can say for sure that the music in this game is actually pretty great. So not only does everything fit well with the game and all the settings, but also there's quite a few catchy songs in the game, and of course some songs are pretty upbeat. But one thing that I was surprised by, at least a little bit, was that the music was actually composed by Motoi Sakuraba. For those that have no idea who he is, that's the composer that did the music for the Star Ocean games and also Valkyrie Profile, so that alone is pretty amazing. So part of the reason why I wasn't surprised by this was the fact that Wolf Team and Telenet has always done a lot of stuff together, and also the fact that the music is actually pretty damn good. But what I was surprised at was the fact that he just did the music for the game, because I don't know, I was just not expecting him to do the music for it. It doesn't sound like the typical stuff that he normally does, but still, not that I'm complaining at all, because yes, the music in this game is really great. I can highly recommend listening to the OST in case you haven't. So now, if you want to go out and buy this game, now like I always say with Japan-only RPGs that got fan translated, if you want to go out and buy them, you have to have a way to modify like the translation into it. Or if you wanted to buy it for the cool looking cover art, then the game is actually really cheap and affordable. So I've seen some loose cards going for about $5 to $10, and then I've seen some complete in box copies going for $20 to $30. So yeah, as of right now, it's actually affordable. So now, as for my overall thoughts on Song of the Angels, is that I actually do kinda like this game. But as much as I do like the game, I have to say that it's nothing amazing or fantastical, you know, stuff like Final Fantasy VI or Chrono Trigger, it's nothing like that. But just as its own though, I do think it is a pretty decent lighthearted RPG. So here's the thing with the story. Well, the story is nothing like original, it's very typical, and you can pretty much take a guess at like every cliche that's in the book. But what I did like about it though was really the writing of the story. Now, even the writing itself isn't the most amazing thing ever though, but there were some little character moments though that I did like. For an example, I really like the character interactions between Ray and Leon, who happens to be the mercenary character that joins up with you. And another thing I like too is that Kalena is also trying to look for her real parents. So while the story might seem a little bit like a generic love story, it does have its like little moments here and there that do make up for it. And the battle system I did like too, even though it isn't the most unique battle system I ever played, but I just liked the fact that it was very simple to understand and it was also very quick. And the fact that the battles are so quick really makes this game age quite well. And the game is not too difficult either, but that's not to say that this game is going to be a cakewalk, because I actually have died a couple times throughout the game, although most of it was because of my fault for like trying to fight enemies at like very low health. But for the most part, it's really not that difficult of a game. I mean, it is way easier than Shin Megami Tensei 2. And the game is pretty linear, and I know some people would probably hate on the game for that, which I can understand. But for me personally though, as much as I do like playing like hard as shit RPGs that are like open world and whatnot, as much as I do like that though, I can't play them all the time. Like sometimes I'll be in the mood for something that's more linear and straightforward and to the point. So I really do feel that the linear aspect of it does work well with the game. So because of this, I do enjoy the game, but I wouldn't say it's like an all-time favorite or anything like that, but I do think it does have enough good stuff going for it. So I'd really only recommend this game if you wanted to play an RPG that's really relaxing, simpler, easy and to the point in understanding, and of course, it's not frustratingly difficult. Also, if you're one of those people who isn't like huge into RPGs but do want to get into them and want to start off with something that's more easygoing, I would recommend it for those too. But if you're looking for an RPG that's gonna heighten your senses and like totally kick your ass like every time it could, then yeah, I wouldn't recommend it for that. Also, if you're looking for something with a more like grand scale of like huge open world epicness, then yeah, also I wouldn't recommend it for that either. But if you don't give a shit about any of that and this does sound interesting to you, then yeah, give it a go. But yeah, I did find the game to be overall was decently enjoyable. And I like it a whole lot better than the other two recent RPGs that I've taken a look at on the Super Nintendo, being Cyber Knight and La Place No More, or whatever the hell it's called. Well, either way, those games are just fucking fuckular. So that'll be the end of this review, so thanks for watching and commenting, and have yourselves a great day. This right here is the second game that came out on the PC Engine CD, and well, when you look at the front cover from far away up the distance, you know, it actually does look like a pretty cool cover art. It kinda reminds me of the original Ys logo. But then you just kinda like look closer and you look at the chick's face and you realize, ugh, like, look what the diddly dick did they do here?